Kansas City resident Bob Baker has lived near the tracks for 40 years.
Most of us have been on this block here forever. We don't even notice the train going up and down the track.
In light of a $31 billion deal by Canadian Pacific to acquire Kansas City Southern, more trains will soon pass by his home. The agreement marks the first major rail merger in more than 2 decades to be approved. Both carriers are considered among Class 1 railroads in the U.S., meaning they have operating revenues of $490 million or more per year. But Baker says recent derailments, specifically the one in East Palestine, Ohio last month, remain a concern.
Especially after the accident out in Ohio and, things go wrong, things get better.
From 2005 to 2021, the U.S. Department of Transportation reported an average of 1,475 train derailments a year, making them a somewhat common occurrence in the U.S. What's not common? The type of derailment that occurred in East Palestine, which resulted in the spilling of hazardous materials, a controlled chemical burn, and impacts to the air, soil, and water. It's also raising questions about health concerns for residents and first responders.
To say I was scared the night of the derailment is an understatement, unquote.
In response, Senate Democrats introduced the Railway Safety Act, which would in part require rail companies to create a disaster plan and inform emergency personnel of hazardous materials traveling through their communities. That's something Canadian Pacific already offers. For 17 years in a row, Canadian Pacific has had the lowest reportable train accident frequency, as documented by the Federal Railroad Administration, among Class 1 railroads in North America.
I don't disagree with it. They've got a good safety track record, but still, nonetheless, what's going to happen is, again, you're going to have less competition, prices will go up.
Dr. Patrick Penfield is a professor of supply chain management at Syracuse University. He fears the control the Class 1 railroads have over the industry allows for cost cutting, but at what expense?
Again, it's all about this oligopoly of Class 1 railroads, and they dominate the United States. I think because there's a lack of regulation, a lack of rules, I think that's kind of what happening is people are looking at the bottom line.
Officials with Canadian Pacific did not immediately respond to Scripps News' request for comment, but its board says the merger will allow for the transportation of grain from the Midwest to Mexico and the Gulf Coast, as well as intermodal freight, or those that can move goods easily from trains to trucks between Dallas and Chicago. Regulators in the U.S. have said the merger is expected to add more than 800 union jobs.